Hi, everybody. This is day 1566 days since Richard was premeditatedly murdered on Fort Bliss. And of course, we're very anxious about be anxious for nothing. Okay, we are really watching the election. And I have so much to say about that election. And I hope I express. Oh, I think it sounds better. Okay, so I have a new microphone, and I think that that will help with the sound. And I think everything is working, and I can see all comments, and I know everybody is probably not too concerned about anything else except for this election right now. Maybe I don't know. We're very concerned about this election. We have really kept a close eye on it. And in Texas, the news is that Trump has won Texas. Also, that Ted Cruz won his seat in Texas, which is really big. I have Trump at about 269 right now. Um, and why do I have him? Really, he's. I think he's won. Okay, Team Fine Richard Holiday is going to, uh, you know, call the Matrix. Let's call the Matrix. We believe that President Trump has won this election. Um, and why do we say that? Well, they say that a lot of these races are too early to call because, of course, by the time they get over to the West Coast, he could have already won. If he gets Pennsylvania, if he gets Virginia, if he gets North Carolina, if he gets Georgia, he has Florida. That was like first off. And why is this important to us? Because we're at 1,566 days since our son was code red murdered on Fort Bliss, dismembered. Code red murdered on Fort Bliss, and then covered up the investigation, covered up this atrocious murder. We have all the reason to be concerned about our leadership for our volunteer sons and daughters in the military that go to Fort Bliss, go to Qatar, and experience witnessing criminal activity by their leadership that is so egregious that they call for his murder when he doesn't want to go along, and he even reports it. He's a whistleblower. And when you have the emergency intake center, over 325 to 500,000 unaccompanied children that are missing and mostly dead, that were in the hands of our military to care for. It was their obligation to record who they are, where they're going, to make sure they're cared for. Our military that we give $1 trillion to every year and more. And they are too busy doing criminal trafficking. We give them our equipment, we give them our weapons, we give them our ammunition, we give them our volunteer sons and daughters. We have this open border problem, and you have unaccompanied children coming over, and then all of a sudden they're missing and mostly dead, and you're not talking about one, you're not talking about 10, you're talking about a major systemic problem that is about child trafficking, because they're missing and mostly dead, 325 minimum to over 500,000 of them in just a few years. 3 years. yes, this election is concerning to us because of a Walmart mass shooting, that they lied to us, that we have hard evidence that they lied to us, that they used a special education, a autistic young man with who has maybe the wrong connections, that was in special education, that has severe mental health condition. I don't think if I'm betting, we're in this betting thing with this election. Well, let me bet if Patrick Crusius can talk or not. Does he have verbal ability, or is he a nonverbal autistic individual? Because I haven't seen him talk. And I mean, I want to see him have a conversation. He is supposed to have written this manifesto. He's accused of being a white supremacist. Let us see him defend himself. He has a right. And yet he gets stuck with a dirty defense attorney that is prepared to do illegal backroom deals with the most corrupt, this is a quote, the most corrupt judge in El Paso history, Judge Medrano. And I don't know if he is the most corrupt judge, but I know that they admitted to backroom deals to make agreements that they conceal and that they can conceal the truth to us. And what was that Walmart mass shooting? That Walmart mass shooting was blamed on MAGA, was blamed on white supremacy, was meant to divide people, thinking that one type of person hates another type of person. And let me tell you, I haven't seen that from Patrick Crusius, because number one, it's in question now out of the mouth of his own defense attorney that we have the evidence for, that says he couldn't fathom doing what he did. And then goes on, oh, well, he said maybe one or two. Well, did he say? Let's hear it, because right now, with his mental health severity condition, his autistic condition, and what's going on with him, the abuse in 5 years, look at what has happened to him. And, you know, Joe Spencer plays this game with the federal court and the state case, telling one story to one and one story to the other. And oh, we're going to make a plea deal for you, right? So you don't get the death penalty. They never wanted the death penalty for him because, in my opinion, because then they would have an automatic appeal, and then that would put a fine-tooth comb through the whole investigation. And who's underneath this investigation? Richard Halliday's Truth. So, they don't want that. So let's plea deal 90 life sentences, right? 1,000-year prison term for Patrick Crusius, who is autistic, and in my opinion, and I haven't seen him talk. And if he's autistic and he has a severe mental health condition, then I think my suspicions have weight, because many people with that kind of condition are nonverbal. So he should have a whole medical team around him for a case that is supposedly worthy of 90 life sentences and the death sentence. Don't you think the millions and millions of dollars that taxpayers had to pay, state and federal funds that went to Patrick Crusius, would have to, have a little medical team around him to tell us about his mental health condition? if he's even able to do this, because there's suspicion that he even did it, because he surrendered himself minutes later with clean clothes. Clean clothes. And this is after witnesses like absolute criminal, Ernest Christopher Grant, who said the most atrocious things about what Patrick Crusius did, and then said he threw soda bottles at him, right? And that he had no mercy, and he did things to people at very close proximity that were that's just unspeakable for any kind of live stream, and that they were begging and they were praying. And yet minutes later, he is surrendering himself to a Hispanic. Oh, by the way, he had time in between all of that to upload his manifesto. Yeah, and he had internet. He had internet, he had a computer, he had internet, he had all that, but he has zero net worth. I mean, we have been so hoodwinked with this case. We have been so hoodwinked, so taken, millions of dollars. And Joe Spencer is saying it, is telling us we have, and we released it, we have broken the case. And he, my goodness, doesn't even defend his client, which makes him really, it's criminal. And so, absolutely criminal, huge criminal. And when you take all this into perspective, and then all of a sudden, Patrick Crusius is walking up to an Hispanic police officer and surrendering himself, and he has clean shoes, clean pants, clean t-shirt. He's not even sweating. And I know it's El Paso. I know it's dry heat. I understand that. But the nervousness of it and everything, and especially with his mental health condition, he would be flustered. Nope. He's just really nice. And to a Hispanic police officer, I thought he was enraged. The lies, the level of lies. And this is where this election is so important, because some of those lies, huge lies, were directed to President Trump, were directed to MAGA, were directed to, an election interference. And so, yes, we absolutely backed Trump through this, and we're, I'm keeping close tabs. I should probably open that up and see what's going on, because they're really coming out. Oh yeah, they gave North Carolina. I have them at like 289 already in my. Oh yeah. All the news coming out is putting Trump way in there. Plus 12, putting Trump in plus 12, and also winning the popular vote. So to win the electoral college, I never can say that right. This is that German heritage. I don't want to blame it on that. Anyway, but to have that, and also the popular vote, this is going to be absolutely, what does it mean for us, for Team Find Richard Halliday, for our case? Because you have to understand, we have cases. Don't forget that our house was illegally searched without a warrant through this. That we have a fake DA to deal with. That we have a fake judges that to deal with. We have a media that has been fake. Really, they're a fake media. because we have absolutely handed them the most incredible, huge stories. Just that the Gold Star family was part of the SB4 case. Just because the Gold Star family released that the judges on the El Paso Criminal Law Magistrate Court needed to be elected, and since 2015 are illegal because they're appointed and they can't be appointed. So all of those thousands of cases are now in question. That's a huge story. We handed that to them. Right? We handed that to them. What does this mean for Attorney General Paxton? What does this mean for Governor Abbott? What does this mean for the courts? Right? What does this mean? This is huge. Richard's case is huge because what does this mean for Mexico? What does this mean for all of those that, were assigned to our case and everything that were up to no good in so many different ways and compromised with the cartel for this criminal trafficking, the drug trafficking alone, like 80-90 billion dollars a year. And we're not even talking about the child sex trafficking or the child porn um, or the ammunition and the fraud and the equipment and the weapons trafficking and and El Paso's compromisation, those that are in key positions that are compromised with the cartel that are then compromised with those at Fort Bliss. And all of the complaints that Richard submitted and was in communication with Child Protective Services, with FBI Houston, with Washington, D.C., with the IG, with the CID, with 911. And then when it comes to the framing of him, who was involved in the framing of Richard? Huge connection to cartel. Those that tried to shut Richard up, those that, and the military allowing it, the military allowing, working together with those that were compromised with the cartel to try to frame Richard, to try to shut him up, to retaliate against him, and then the military even chiming in and using the tools that we have entrusted to them, that we pay them for, to use it as a weapon against our own son for being a whistleblower, and then ordering the code red when everything didn't work. Nothing worked. And they just thought, okay, we'll kill him. And then to not contact our family, and then to interfere in the investigation and tell us we have to do the investigation. And then we found out that he was a whistleblower, that we had to find out all of the compromising that went on with the cartel, that we had to find out about Nadal Baim, that we had to find out his connection with Bradford Bugado and the G3 of the 32nd ADCOM, that we had to find out the compromising of the Texas Ranger that was assigned to our case, that we had to withstand all of the retaliation ourselves, what was done to us, the vile and vulgar retaliation month after month, year after year, the asymmetric warfare tactics of a casualty affairs officer, another casualty affairs officer, that it got so bad that, he lost his life, and then the next casualty affair, it's just ongoing over and over and over again. And then the targeting of the investigation, the targeting of our whistleblower, and we're going to be getting into that. We've been bringing that in because of the ongoing targeting, the ongoing crime. Yes, this election is so important because we need a change in administration. We need a change in the law enforcement system and the appointments right? And this is very good news. I'm hoping nothing happens. Oh, Trump wins Georgia. I can put it up. Trump wins Georgia. I had it up and I took it down. Trump wins Iowa 6. Oh my gosh. I have look, I have them at 269. Okay. That's one electoral vote short of the 270. I have them. So he wins Georgia. He wins North Carolina. Virginia's still out. And I love Virginia. I love Virginia. And I'm just praying that Virginia wins this for Trump. I really am. Pennsylvania's still out. It looks very, very, very good. Very good for Team Farm Richard Halliday to get our new administration, to get a new director, or let's just say it's not so much new people, right? It's, well, hopefully we get a new FBI leadership, because Christopher Wray, absolutely, they're all under pressure and they become stiffs, right? They become stiffs where they just really do absolutely minimum of what they're supposed to do because they're so afraid. And this is how the media is. The media is just so controlled, and we've handed them these stories and they've really let us down. They've not so much us, but as a country in whole, as humanity in whole. How can you allow this criminal group, because you want to fine dine, have 500,000 mostly dead children? How can you allow family after family, individual after individual, go through a criminal law magistrate court because you want to drive a fancy car and their kids are being taken away unlawfully from them? They are made to take drugs unlawfully. They're arraigned through there unlawfully because those judges are unlawful. They're criminals. They're not even judges. They're individuals, and they wear the judge costume. Can you imagine? Let's just go in there. I'm just going to put my judge costume on and put, a hammer, in my hand and say, okay, this is what you're going to do. And they have no authority. There's no legal authority. The law is beautiful. It protects us. And it says they have to be elected. We have to give them the permission to be a judge. We have to give it to them, not just one individual like in an appointment or like a little group of people in an appointment, some kind of council or whatever, council of judge. No, Medrano sits on that. No, he's the most corrupt. No, it's the people of El Paso that is supposed to give the okay for who's going to sit on that bench, right? And rule over and make these judgments over the people of El Paso. And yet, since 2015, they've been totally illegal. Totally illegal. Can you imagine how explosive that is when you think of the thousands of cases that are now botched cases? They need to all be looked at. How many people have went to prison unlawfully? And, look, Patrick Crusius was arraigned through there. The very first judge, Penny Hamilton. You don't think Penny Hamilton asked Patrick Crusius some questions? Penny Hamilton could tell us if he can talk or not. Penny Hamilton absolutely spent time with him. She kept it from the public that he had a severe mental health condition and autism, where when he was a child, he was in special education because when he was 3 years old, he was banging his head on the sidewalk. And she didn't say, oh, well, maybe there's a possibility he doesn't have verbal ability. And look, he was clean. I mean, and she's illegal. She's illegal. She's illegally, uh, well, now she's retired, taking retirement money illegally on that bench. And then you got this defense lawyer that's not even calling that out, that's pleading him for 90 life sentences, 1,000 years in prison. And he has clean clothes on. And how in the world, and this is another thing, and I hate to just focus on this, but it just shows you the lies and the lies. When you have autism like this, you have to have, when you are accused of killing 23 people, injuring 23 people, you absolutely have to have a team of medical professionals around you and to tell us how is his fine motor skills, how it, because fine motor skills would tell you if he could take out a magazine and reload a magazine in a very quick amount of time under pressure, right? Because when you have that kind of autism, your fine motor skills are like very limited. Your verbal skills are limited. Your fine motor skills are limited. And how do I know this? Because I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher and I spent, for early education, that was my specialty. And I spent time in the classroom, through my student teaching, doing special education with those that were with severe mental health conditions, with autism, with Down syndrome. And, and I'm trained to look at children and say, how can I meet them where they need me so that I could teach them? And if they have fine motor skill problems, then I need to focus on that. If they have verbal problems, if they're nonverbal, I need to focus on that. How can I teach them the 44 sounds in our alphabet if they have, verbal problems? I'm going to have to start there. You have to learn those 44 sounds, right? And, so you look at these children and very quickly, I can identify and I can suspect. When you suspect something, then, oh, this is a very gifted child. Let me see. And you give them different activities and you see if you're right. It's called testing them. And then if they're having problems or something like that, you might change their environment a little bit because sometimes it can be the environment. They need it more quiet or they need a little bit more busy. And then you give them different activities and you test them. You test them. And then when your suspicions are getting, you have evidence for your suspicions, then you do your recommendations, right? You write out your recommendation to, a gifted program or a special needs program, and the thing that we know about Patrick Crucius is that he was in special education. And that is, in the last 10 years, 15, 20 years, they were mainstreaming those with mental health conditions. They were mainstreaming because they were trying to change their environment a little bit, get them around normalcy a little bit, right? To see, but he couldn't handle it. So that tells you that his level of autism, the level of his mental health, as soon as Loretta Lynn Hewitt said that he was in special education, I knew that, it was more severe than what I even had thought. And, then you have to take into consideration the medication. Yeah, so, and he should have a team, especially him. When you're accusing him of murdering 23 people and injuring 23, of carrying out something like this, for even having the mental capacity to even write a manifesto, but yet, having criminals say that you're enraged, but yet you very nicely, surrender yourself to a Hispanic police officer with clean clothes. No problems. And you show total cooperation and respect. And every time that I've seen him, he has stood up, he sits down, he takes orders totally. He looks terrible right now because he looks like he's being abused. He looks malnourished. He looks like they're almost starving him. We've heard that he's tried to commit suicide. He should absolutely have a team of medical people around. We should have this report. We should never have heard this in the fifth year of this. We should have all heard this right away in the first year, in the first months, about his mental health condition. Because now we have the real shooters have been roaming around causing trouble up to no good for the last 5 years. And that group, that criminal group, is the same criminal group as those that targeted Richard, our family, and prime suspects in the case that are connected to that. And that's why this election matters to us very, very much. Let me see. More and more is coming out. Ohio, Texas, Pennsylvania. Oh, they're talking about the House and the Senate. Yeah, Pennsylvania's still not out. New Mexico is still not out. I have this little bit of hope for New Mexico. There's a little thread of a chance that it will go for Trump. They're not calling. Of course, they called Georgia now. They've called North Carolina now. They've called Idaho now. That's 4 electoral votes. So they're not doing that because, of the time zones and the West Coast and all of that, because right now, really how it looks is that he already won. And so that would keep people from the polls. And we want California to vote. We want Oregon to vote. We want Washington to vote. We want Nevada to vote. We want to hear from the people of the United States. I want to hear from Alaska. I want to hear from Hawaii. I want to hear from these people and what they want, and have their votes included in this entire election process. We are one country. And so I understand what they're trying to do. Maybe they should, everybody votes in a certain amount of time, and paper ballot, and then they all announce at one time. I don't know. But it's because of our country that we are so blessed to have our country. And our country's so big. I lived in Ireland. Richard, came from Ireland to join the military. Longford, Ireland, right? The Distinguished Honor Graduate for this cycle is Richard Halliday from Longford, Ireland. That's what was said at his graduation. Longford, Ireland, a small country. I think you can fit 4 or 5 Irelands into Texas. So you don't have that huge time change differential between the first voters and those that are voting, let's say in Hawaii, right? Oh, you had Guam. Guam came out; they were the very first. Um, so that is really important to understand how fortunate we are to have our beautiful big country, and we have to take care of it. And what we have with this compromising and with this, this is why evil people want to take over our system. They go to the law, right? They want a badge. Leilani Hart wanted a badge. She wanted a badge, right? So she could do her damage. And she went after people that had a badge. Even if they were a family member, she would give them sexual favors. She was close, she compromised the DES. I believe Thomas Kane. She compromised CID agent Tavita Nusa. She compromised so many. She was absolutely a pain in the neck at Park University. She was a pain in the neck at her church. There's all kinds of records. She was a pain in the neck in Hawaii. She was a pain in the neck um, there at the Veterans Association, the Combined Veterans Association. They kicked her out. Park University had to kick her out. They had to move her around in Hawaii because she was up to no good. Her family, her children don't call her blessed. There's that in the Bible where the family calls their mother blessed. They don't call her that. They call her crazy. They report her for her criminal activities. And then she reports them, because they're not innocent. She reports them for their child corn, for their, the incest. I just have to say it. For their sex cult activity. For, it's just so, it goes on and on and on. And it's not just in her confessions, it's also in other records. And then she's even saying that her husband is using his job to influence people illegally, which is the disability benefits for veterans. So, they get into these positions where they have tools that we give them to take care of our veterans with disabilities, to give us a very proficient, strong military, to sit on a bench and establish justice in our country, right? So that we can restrain criminal activity. We give the El Paso ISD a police force. We pay them, right? And when I say we, I'm saying it's all over. This is our system. Our system is so gracious. It's so giving. And they come in and they, it's like give a mouse a cookie. They want it. They take it. The next thing you know, they want the whole house and they're bringing in their rats. And then they're compromised. And then they want to just chew it all up. And turn the beautiful system into, their playground, their criminal enterprise, their criminal network. And then people blame it on the system. And it's not the system. It's on the criminals who allowed Penny Hamilton to impersonate a judge. And why haven't they arrested her? Who allowed Joe Spencer to impersonate? Well, he's not an impersonator, he is a defense attorney, but he has meant harm for Patrick Crusius. I mean, with a defense attorney like him, who needs a prosecutor? And he's not even he's not even just. The prosecutor's supposed to be just, identify the crime, document the crime, prosecute the crime. It's hard to prosecute somebody. You have to prove them guilty. They are innocent until proven guilty. And yet, Joe Spencer and Judge Medrano totally shows Patrick Crusius uncared for, presents him and parades him around in front of the media wearing jail orange and white striped clothing, chained all up with a vest on, a bulletproof vest on, not even properly put on, with unkept hair, looking malnourished. They're not giving him a presumption of innocence, and this is not the prosecution. They're on the team of the defense, right? And Medrano's supposed to be on the team of the law, judging the law, that the law is followed, that the law is kept. And he's having illegal backroom deals to keep the public from knowing the full extent of the abuse that is going on and the nature of Patrick Crusius, and then parading him around, not giving him the presumption of innocence, and then rubber stamping millions and millions of dollars for this absolute criminal activity to cover up the real orchestration and nature of the Walmart mass shooting, to allow those that really did it to run around to cause more problems and to be up to no good, and to cover up Richard Halliday's truth. It is such a miscarriage of justice, and so we're really praying. We're really praying nothing else happens tonight, and that this election is too big to rig. And I'm looking again some more. Oh, I have bad news for you. Adam Schiff, I think President Trump calls him pencil neck. Yeah, he wins in California. Poor California. Poor California. California is called. Pennsylvania is looking red. Pennsylvania is looking red. Wisconsin is looking red. Michigan and Minnesota is looking red. Arizona is looking red. So Washington and California have been now called for, thank you, Anicia, for coming on, have been called for Kamala. And that whole thing with Kamala, I have a hard time even saying it, because who is she? She didn't win a primary. She's supposed to be knowing the law and everything, and then she's just breaking the law, and then I'm sorry. It's just, how our leaders have to be held to a much higher standard than the rest of us. They have to be. And let me tell you about President Trump. He has been so vetted, hasn't he? He's been so vetted. I mean, we know everything about that man, but we don't know anything about Kamala. We know more about her husband and his terrible things that he's done. And that hasn't been really vetted. That hasn't come out like it should. But we know everything. I mean, Trump, it's all been out there, right? And he goes on Rogan for 3 hours, and then we even get more. We get it all. And who is Kamala? Who's her family? What has she done? What's going? She hasn't gone through the vetting process of our beautiful elections. And they can get kind of nasty, right? But they go through this process, and it's like, it's kind of like, how a butterfly is in its chrysalis and it wants to come out, and you can't help it come out. It has to struggle to get out so it can fly, right? And then it has to pump its wings up and everything. It's a process. It's a process, and she hasn't gone through that process. And I hold that against her. I hold that against her. It's just no. Mm-mm. You need to go through the process. So, and also, she's been there for 4 years, as she knows about Richard's case. They all know about Richard's case. And where is she? What, is she too busy? I don't even want to go into it. So yes, this election is very, very important, and I don't even think she's prepared. For this. I mean, 4 years, she has nothing to say. Uh, no memories, no nothing. She reminds me of Belen Rocha. I put her in the same boat as Belen Rocha in my. It's like, okay, what have you been doing these 4 years? Come on, tell us, tell us, tell us, tell us some of the memories. And she has nothing. She has nothing. Yeah. Um. Let's see what's happening. Let's see what's happening. Oh my goodness, so much is happening, y'all. They have Trump at 242 now. We'll see. They have Trump. Um, their target for him now is 296. 296 estimate of electoral college votes. Georgia has been called for him. Iowa has been called for him. Pennsylvania's going back and forth. I don't know what's going on in Pennsylvania. Justin Harris' campaign is reportedly working on a concession speech. It's over. Yeah, so this is very good news for us. Wisconsin is going for Trump. Looks like he won Wisconsin. And Michigan. Looks like he's at 91.5% on the Poly market. Looks like he won Arizona. New Mexico is still in question. Let's see, going through here. Elon Musk is now live, going to talk with his son. Leave it to the children. Oh my gosh. I would love to share about the children because I just love them so much. But, we have these crazy people that have been targeting us. Okay. So I think that is about it, y'all. this has been a really great night, um, and it's looking very, very good. It's not over yet. It's not over yet until there's a concession, and we'll see. We'll see now. Um, this is just beginning with Richard. Okay, it's just beginning. We've spent 4 years putting together the evidence, and we've been praying for this change, and we're hoping now that this change will bring us accountability and our son's remains. So thank you. God bless you. And remember that we are the United States of America, and we're so fortunate to have this type of election, that we're so fortunate to have our country. Yes, there is, we have our problems, but we're so fortunate, and it is ours, and we need to fight for it and never, ever, ever give up. Thank you. God bless you. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing. Bye bye.